The receptionist's smile faltered when I walked into the marble lobby of Hammond Industries headquarters. Behind her, the 20-foot glass wall displayed my grandfather's name in brushed steel letters, the founder who'd built a manufacturing empire from a single warehouse in 1962. "Miss Hammond," she said carefully. "I wasn't told to expect you." "Family meeting," I replied, adjusting the portfolio under my arm. "My father asked me to come." Her fingers moved across her keyboard. "I don't see your name on today's." "Sophia." My father's voice cut through the lobby. "Richard Hammond, CEO, 62 years old, 15 years at the helm." He strode toward me in his charcoal suit, and I recognized the look. The same one he'd given me at my college graduation when I told him I wasn't joining the family business. The same one when I'd moved to New York instead of staying in Chicago. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "You sent me an email yesterday." "Family meeting at 2 o'clock. His jaw tightened. "That was for family involved in the business." "Not," he glanced at the receptionist, lowered his voice. "Not for you. I'm a Hammond. You walked away from Hammond Industries 3 years ago." He was already guiding me toward the elevator, away from the lobby. "Your brother Marcus runs operations now. Your cousin Jennifer handles the finance division. You wanted nothing to do with manufacturing. You wanted to do your own thing." The elevator doors opened. A group of men in expensive suits nodded at my father as they passed, older, serious faces I recognized from industry conferences. "Today isn't the day for this, Sophia," my father continued. "We have a critical meeting. Potential acquisition. The Kellerman Group is here, and I know who Kellerman is. Then you know we can't afford distractions." He checked his watch. "Marcus spent 6 months preparing this pitch. This acquisition would double our manufacturing capacity, expand us into 3 new markets. Your brother's entire future is in that room." And what did Marcus prepare? The expansion proposal, the integration timeline, the financial projections. He stopped himself. "This isn't your concern." My brother appeared at the end of the corridor. Marcus Hammond, 31, MBA from Wharton, groomed for succession since birth. He wore the same charcoal suit as our father, the same expression of controlled irritation. "Is there a problem?" Marcus asked. "Your sister thought she was invited to the acquisition meeting," my father said. Marcus looked at me the way he'd looked at me our entire lives, the little sister who'd chosen art history over business school, who'd turned down her corner office to move into a Brooklyn apartment. "Sophie, this is a closed meeting. Board members and Kellerman Group only." "I should still." "You should stay out of the room," Marcus said flatly. "We've worked too hard to have this derailed by family drama." My father placed a hand on my shoulder. Not unkind, but firm. "There's a waiting lounge on the executive floor. I'll have someone bring you coffee. We'll talk after, I promise. But right now, I need you to stay out of this." He guided me toward a glass-walled room overlooking the Chicago skyline. Leather chairs, a chrome coffee table with industry magazines fanned across it. Through the glass, I could see the boardroom 30 feet away. The long table, the presentation screen, Marcus distributing folders to board members. "Wait here," my father said. "Please." The door closed. Through the glass, I watched my father and brother enter the boardroom. Watched the board members take their seats, 10 people who'd known me since childhood, who'd attended my birthday parties, who now looked through me like I was part of the furniture. The Kellerman Group representatives arrived 7 minutes later. 4 people. 3 men in dark suits. And 1 woman. I set down my coffee. The woman was in her 50s, steel gray hair pulled back, carrying a slim leather briefcase. Catherine Voss. Kellerman Group's Executive Vice President of Acquisitions. I'd sat across from her 14 times in the past 8 months. She'd reviewed every page of my analysis. She'd signed the preliminary terms. She glanced toward the waiting room. Our eyes met through the glass. She didn't smile. I watched her enter the boardroom. Watched my father stand to shake hands. Watched Marcus begin his presentation, his confident gestures, his laser pointer tracking across financial projections on the screen. I pulled out my phone and opened the secure folder I'd reviewed on the flight from New York. Hammond Industries, private acquisition target. $340 million valuation. Aging infrastructure, declining margins, family management with limited strategic vision. Acquiring entity, Voss Capital Partners, subsidiary vehicle of Kellerman Group. Principal investor and majority stakeholder, SM Hammond Holdings, LLC. Controlling member, Sophia Marie Hammond. Ownership stake in transaction, 67%. My phone buzzed. A text from Catherine Voss, ready? I replied, yes. I stood, smoothed my black dress, and walked toward the boardroom. I didn't knock. The room went silent when I opened the door. 12 faces turned toward me. My father rose from his seat, his expression somewhere between confusion and anger. Sophia, I told you to. Sit down, Richard, Catherine Voss said. My father's mouth opened. Closed. He remained standing, looking between me and Catherine like the floor had shifted beneath him. Catherine gestured to the empty chair beside her. Miss Hammond, thank you for joining us. I took the seat. Set my portfolio on the table. Looked at my brother, whose laser pointer had frozen midair, the red dot trembling against the projection screen. I'm sorry, my father said slowly. There's been some misunderstanding. My daughter isn't part of this meeting. She's not involved in Hammond Industries. No, Catherine agreed. She's not. She opened her briefcase and removed a bound document, slid it across the table to my father. Richard, this is the final acquisition proposal from Kellerman Group. Please turn to page 3, section 2.4. You'll see the capital structure of the acquiring entity. My father's hands shook slightly as he opened the document. I watched his eyes scan the page. Watched the color drain from his face. Marcus leaned over his shoulder. What is this? Your sister, Catherine said, has been the principal investor in this acquisition for the past 8 months. That's not possible, Marcus said. Sophie doesn't have, she works in a gallery. Your sister, Catherine continued, her voice level, graduated from NYU with degrees in art history and economics. She spent 2 years at Christie's, where she developed expertise in high-value asset evaluation and private collection management. 3 years ago, she received a $30 million inheritance from your maternal grandmother's trust, a trust that, if I understand correctly, the Hammond family didn't know existed. I saw my father grip the edge of the table. Sophia took that capital, Catherine said, and built a portfolio of strategic investments in undervalued manufacturing companies. She approached Kellerman Group 18 months ago with an acquisition thesis focused on family-owned industrial businesses with strong fundamentals but poor strategic direction. One of the board members, Thomas Chan, my father's oldest friend, spoke carefully. Sophia, is this true? I opened my portfolio and removed the cap sheet. Slid it across the table. SM Hammond Holdings owns 67% of the acquisition vehicle. Kellerman Group holds 20%. The remaining 13% is distributed among 3 institutional partners. You're 26 years old, my father said. 27 in April. Marcus was staring at the documents like they were written in a foreign language. You're telling us that our sister, that Sophie, is buying Hammond Industries? Not buying, I corrected. Acquiring. Through a properly structured transaction that will preserve the Hammond name and maintain operational continuity while implementing necessary strategic reforms. Necessary reforms, my father repeated, his voice hollow. I pulled out the second document. This is the integration plan. Catherine and I have spent 6 months developing it. Page 12 outlines the new executive structure. I watched him turn to page 12. Effective 60 days after closing, I said, Richard Hammond will transition to Chairman Emeritus. Marcus Hammond will remain as VP of Operations, reporting to the new Chief Operating Officer. Jennifer Hammond will continue in her current finance role, subject to performance review. Subject to, Marcus stood abruptly. Who the hell do you think you are? The majority owner, I said simply. Catherine placed another document on the table. This is the voting agreement between SM Hammond Holdings and Kellerman Group. Sophia has controlling authority over all major decisions. Board composition, executive appointments, capital allocation, strategic direction. This is insane, Marcus said. Dad, tell them this is insane. But my father was reading the integration plan, his finger tracing down the page, and I knew he'd reached the section on the new CEO appointment. You're installing an outside executive, he said quietly. David Park, I confirmed. Former COO of Westfield Manufacturing. 20 years of operational experience. He's already agreed to the position. This company has had a Hammond at the top for 60 years. And that, I said, meeting his eyes, is why it's been declining for the past 6. The silence in the room was absolute. I pulled out the final document. The one I'd been carrying since I walked in. This is the market analysis Marcus spent 6 months preparing for today's pitch. I opened it to the projection page. His expansion plan projected 15% revenue growth over 3 years, requiring $80 million in new capital investment. I placed my own analysis beside it. This is the actual market data. The sectors Marcus wants to expand into are contracting. His growth projections are based on 2019 trends. His competitive analysis ignores 3 new manufacturers that have entered the market in the past 18 months. His capital requirements are underestimated by at least 30%. I looked at my brother. If Dad and the board had accepted your proposal, Hammond Industries would have been insolvent within 5 years. Marcus's face had gone white. Sophia, Thomas Chen said carefully, I've known you since you were a child. I don't doubt your intelligence, but I'm a 26-year-old woman who likes art, so I couldn't possibly understand manufacturing? I turned to him. Mr. Chen, you've served on this board for 12 years. In that time, Hammond Industries has lost market share in every category except one. Your compensation has increased 23%, while worker wages have remained flat. You voted against every modernization proposal and every sustainability initiative. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. I looked around the table. This acquisition will proceed with or without your cooperation. But I'd prefer to do this respectfully. You can remain on the board under the new structure, or you can accept a buyout package. Catherine has the terms prepared either way. You can't do this, Marcus said, but his voice had lost its edge. The shareholder agreement gives me the authority, I replied. And the purchase price gives your father and the existing shareholders a 30% premium over market value. It's more than fair. I stood. Looked at my father. He was staring at the documents spread across the table, his life's work, reduced to purchase agreements and transition timelines. I'm not trying to destroy what you built, Dad, I said quietly. I'm trying to save it. By taking it away from me. By making sure it survives. Catherine Voss gathered her materials. Gentlemen, the formal offer will be delivered tomorrow morning. You have 72 hours to review the terms. I suggest you engage counsel. She looked at me. Sophia, shall we? I picked up my portfolio. Walked toward the door. Sophia. My father's voice stopped me. When were you going to tell us? I turned back. I told you 3 years ago. I said I wanted to do my own thing. You assumed that meant I was giving up. You said you weren't interested in the business. I said I wasn't interested in being your assistant, I corrected. I never said I wasn't interested in building something. I closed the door behind me. The acquisition closed 47 days later. I sat in the same boardroom on a Tuesday morning in March while Catherine Voss walked through the final transaction documents. My father signed where indicated, his signature smaller than I remembered. Marcus didn't attend. He'd sent his attorney instead, a man in a gray suit who said nothing and left immediately after the closing. The wire transfer executed at 10:47 a.m. $340 million, distributed according to the shareholder agreement. My father received $68 million. Marcus received $12 million. The board members and minor shareholders split the remainder. At 11 a.m., David Park was introduced as the new CEO of Hammond Industries. At 11:15 a.m., the press release went live. By noon, my phone had received 43 calls. Family members I hadn't spoken to in years. Cousins who'd ignored my existence. My Aunt Rachel, who'd told me at Thanksgiving 3 years ago that I was wasting my life on art gallery nonsense. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I sat in the executive office, my executive office now, and reviewed the 90-day implementation plan with David Park. He was 52, methodical, completely uninterested in family politics. The operational audit starts next week, he said, pulling up the timeline on his laptop. We'll need your approval on the infrastructure upgrades by the end of Q2. You have it, I said. What about the workforce analysis? HR is conducting reviews across all departments. We've identified 3 divisions where we can improve efficiency without layoffs. Actually, we'll probably need to hire in those areas. Your instinct about the production floor was correct. A knock on the door. Catherine Voss stepped in, followed by my father. David Park stood. I'll give you privacy. Stay, I said. Then to my father, what do you need? He looked older than he had 47 days ago. The title of Chairman Emeritus came with an office, a salary, and absolutely no decision-making authority. I wanted to talk to you about Marcus, he said. What about him? He's struggling with the transition. We all thought, that he'd be CEO one day. He still has his position. Reporting to someone else. Taking direction instead of giving it. My father's voice was strained. He's my son, Sophia. Your brother. And he nearly bankrupted this company with his expansion plan. He made a mistake. He's young. He's 31, I said. I'm 26. When do we stop making excuses for him? I'm not asking you to make excuses. I'm asking you to give him a chance. I exchanged a glance with Catherine. She remained expressionless, but I knew what she was thinking. We'd gamed this conversation out a dozen times. Here's what I'll do, I said. Marcus can stay in his role for 6 months. If his performance meets the standards David sets, he keeps the position. If not, we'll find him something else in the organization. But I won't compromise the company's recovery to protect his ego. That's the offer, Dad. He looked at me for a long moment. You've changed. No, I said. You just never paid attention to who I was. He left without another word. Catherine waited until the door closed. How do you feel? I don't know yet. Your father will adjust. Marcus might not. Marcus has $12 million, I said. He'll be fine. David Park pulled up the next document. The sustainability initiative you wanted, I've drafted the proposal. If we implement it now, we'll be ahead of the regulatory timeline by at least 3 years. It'll cost upfront, but the long-term savings are substantial. Let's do it. There's also the matter of the employee profit-sharing program you mentioned. I've run the numbers. Implement it, I said. Grandfather had one in place when the company was smaller. It should never have been discontinued. Catherine smiled. It was the first time I'd seen her smile since this whole process began. Over the next 30 days, the changes became visible. Hammond Industries announced the new executive team. David Park brought in 3 senior VPs from outside the family, operations, technology, and human resources. Jennifer stayed in finance after a performance review confirmed she was actually competent. Her problem had been Marcus overriding her recommendations for years. The press coverage was extensive. Forbes ran a profile, how a 26-year-old art dealer became a manufacturing magnate. Bloomberg covered the financial structure, the quiet acquisition that redefined family business succession. I gave exactly one interview to Industry Week because they focused on the operational improvements rather than the family drama. Why manufacturing? The reporter asked. Because it's real, I said. You make things. You employ people. You have an impact beyond balance sheets. My grandfather understood that. I wanted to understand it too. The article ran with a photo of me on the production floor, wearing safety glasses, standing next to a worker who'd been with Hammond Industries for 32 years. He'd told me his name was Robert Chen, Thomas Chen's younger brother. He'd thanked me for the profit-sharing program. I'd told him he'd earned it. My phone buzzed during the interview. A text from Marcus, "We need to talk." I didn't respond immediately. Let him wait the way I'd waited in that glass room while he gave his presentation. Let him feel what it was like to be on the outside. But I did respond, eventually. My office. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. He showed up at 8:55 a.m. Punctual for once. You wanted to talk, I said, not looking up from the production report I was reviewing. I wanted to apologize. I set down the report. For what? For treating you like you didn't matter. He sat down across from me, uninvited, and for a moment he looked like the brother I'd grown up with instead of the executive who dismissed me in a hallway. I spent my whole life being told I was going to run this company. And you weren't interested. You wanted to do something else. I thought that meant you'd failed. I didn't fail. No. He laughed, hollow. You beat me at my own game. With my company. Except it was never really my company, was it? It was grandfather's company, I said. Dad's company. Now it's everyone's company who works here and depends on it not collapsing. Is there a place for me in that? David will tell you if your work is sufficient. That's not what I'm asking. I leaned back in my chair. Studied my brother's face. He looked tired. Less certain than I'd ever seen him. You can keep your position, I said finally. But you report to David, you accept his decisions, and you stop acting like this company owes you something because your last name is Hammond. Do the work. Prove you belong here. That's the only path forward. And if I can't? Then you take your $12 million and figure out what you actually want to do with your life. He stood to leave, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, I read your market analysis. The one you showed in the boardroom. It was better than mine. I know. He almost smiled. Yeah, I guess you did. After he left, Catherine called. The Wall Street Journal wants a follow-up. They're calling it the biggest family business shakeup of the year. Tell them no. You sure? It's good publicity. I don't need publicity, I said. I need Hammond Industries to hit its Q2 targets. Spoken like a real owner. I hung up and looked out the window. The manufacturing floor was visible from this office, 300 workers, multiple production lines, the steady rhythm of a company that had survived 60 years and would survive 60 more. My company now. I told them to keep me out of the room. They should have let me in from the beginning. 6 months after the acquisition closed, Hammond Industries reported its best quarterly earnings in 8 years. The board meeting was brief. David Park presented the results with his characteristic efficiency, revenue up 18%, operational costs down 12%, employee retention at a 5-year high. The sustainability initiative was ahead of schedule. The profit-sharing program had generated measurable productivity improvements. Outstanding work, Thomas Chen said. He was the only original board member still remaining. The others had taken their buyouts and disappeared into retirement. It's a team effort, David replied. But credit where it's due, Sophia's operational framework was the foundation. After the meeting, my father approached me in the hallway. We'd barely spoken in 6 months except in formal settings like this. I read the quarterly report, he said. And? You were right. About Marcus's expansion plan, about the market analysis, about bringing in outside leadership. He looked at me directly. About all of it. I waited. I'm proud of you, he said. I should have said that 3 years ago. I should have said it when you told us about your inheritance, when you moved to New York, when you chose your own path. I'm saying it now. Thank you. Is that enough? It's a start. He nodded slowly. Could we have dinner? Just the two of us. Not business. Just family. I considered it. Thought about the glass-walled room, the closed boardroom door, the years of being overlooked. Next month, I said. After the Q3 projections are finalized. I'll take that. He walked away, and I felt something loosen in my chest. Not forgiveness, not yet. But the possibility of it. Marcus had lasted 5 months before requesting a transfer. He was in the Seattle office now, running a smaller division, doing competent work without the pressure of succession. We emailed occasionally. Professional updates, nothing personal. Maybe that would change. Maybe it wouldn't. Jennifer had thrived. She'd been promoted to CFO after David restructured the finance department. She'd called me last week to thank me, and I'd heard something in her voice I'd never heard before, respect. You freed me, she'd said. I was drowning under Marcus's decisions, and no one would listen. I'm listening now. I know. The company Christmas party was different that year. For the first time in Hammond Industries history, it wasn't held at a country club. We rented out the main production facility, transformed it with lights and decorations, invited every employee and their families. I stood near the back, watching Robert Chin dance with his wife, watching the night shift workers laugh together at a table, watching David Park talk seriously with a machinist about a new process improvement idea. Catherine Voss appeared beside me with 2 glasses of champagne. 2 successful acquisitions. 2 successful acquisitions, I echoed. What's next, she asked. Hammond Industries grows. We hit our 3-year targets. We expand the workforce, not by acquisition, but by building. And for you personally? I smiled. There's a company in Ohio I've been researching. Family-owned, strong fundamentals, terrible management. Reminds me of somewhere I used to know. Catherine laughed. You're building a portfolio. I'm building something that lasts. My phone buzzed. A text from my father, thank you for tonight. For giving people something to celebrate. I replied, it's what grandfather would have wanted. He sent back a single word, yes. I put my phone away and looked around the room. At the company I'd saved, the people I employed, the future I'd secured. They'd told me to stay out of the room. I'd bought the building instead. And now, everyone answered to me.